I'm here to talk to you about ship owners' implications and the financials of green corridors and also for small ship operations and ports. I think it's quite daunting to come to a conference like this in an area where we're all kind of grappling with the future and start telling us how it's going to be and making proclamations. I think in this future of energy and shipping, I see it as kind of squinting into the sunrise. We all know it's coming, but actually telling everybody what you can see out there is a bit ambitious. But events like this, where we share our perspective and have a better chance of understanding what's coming, is a better way of viewing it. So I'm really excited to be part of this. A little bit about Intrada Ships Management. So we're based in Rochester, and we do a full ships management operation. And mostly we deal in bulk carriers, so under 5,000 tonnes operating around the Baltic, the North Sea, the English Channel, and the Irish Sea. What does that actually mean? In terms of vessel management, we basically protect the investment of an owner. So we take that from the point where it's a build, so when somebody buys a ship from purchase, through construction, through manning of that vessel, through the compliance of it, through managing shipyards, managing maintenance, right the way through to the sale of that vessel. And the important part of that is we're taking that investment and putting it available for trading. What we do is we take an owner's hard-earned cash, and it's invested in a ship, and we need to have that ship ready for market, ready to do its job and earn back its income. And controlling the costs involved in that as well. And in terms of terminals, very similar thing. So again, you've got a business which is a terminal. So we look after an infrastructure, we look after the plant and equipment, we look after the compliance, the people involved, so that business is open for trade. It's ready to receive ships, it's ready to do what it says on the packet and earn back its investment. The UK fleet is diminishing. That's one of the hardest parts that we've got at the moment. We've got ships that are moving away from the UK, and as we've heard today, the number of ships being built are sliding, and we're very actively trying to address that. So we're working alongside the Chamber of Shipping, the British Ports Association, the Trading Board. We're trying to get back into our UK shipping industry and promote it. And the obligatory 95%, this vast amount of goods coming in and out of the UK is all coming by ship. And there's a new industry that's coming through. We've done the transition a few times. We've gone from sail to steam to diesel. And every time there's a new industry that has evolved around facilitating that. And the new one's coming. And I think it's really important for the UK. We own the demand, so owning some of that solution is also a really important part of what we should be doing here. We have a lot of change coming, and we all feel it. The shipping industry is addressing this vast amount of change. And the answer is, do we actually like change? And most of us, the answer is probably not. We all agree with that destination, that beautiful idea that we're going to have clean ships that have zero emissions, clean waters, clean air. But the pathway between here and there is certainly a slightly uncomfortable one that we've got to get past. I think we're all creatures of habit. I don't know about you, but most of us get up at the same time each day. We drink the same coffee. We follow the same route to work. We have these routines that we do. And getting someone to change those routines, it needs an input, and very often that's a carrot or a stick input. And from the ship owner's perspective, it's a very similar idea. We need a carrot or a stick to change what is our current operations. And when we normally address change, we give people those good reasons. And think about the Dragon's Den. When you've got a new idea or a new concept or a new thing that you want to sell or market to a ship owner, where's the return? How am I going to get my money back? What is it that you're offering me that represents a good investment? Because that's what this is. A ship owner is literally just an investment. I think we need to stop thinking about a ship owner as an individual when we're talking about these things, and think more that ship owners a lot of these massive ships are owned by public limited companies, so they're shareholders. So, you know, for anybody in the room here today that has a managed pension fund, you might be a ship owner. That might be you. And if we're talking about investment into this very high risk environment of new ships and new infrastructure, what sort of return on investment would you be expecting in order to get that value back off your investment? And the thing to remember for ship owners investing in future fuels is there's absolutely no point in being the greenest company that went bankrupt this year. That doesn't do anything for anybody. This has got to stay commercially viable if you want people to invest in these machines. Currently, our sales pitch to investors in new ships is not that great. And I love this slide from Lloyd's because it shows how many things are available and what all these choices are that are coming. And with them is all this uncertainty. And the vessels that we're talking about are certainly our vessel fleet is in the under 5,000 tons, and those are tens of millions of dollars worth of ships. When you get into deep sea ships, we're into hundreds of millions, and when we get into the mega cruise ships, we're into billions of dollars needed to take that way forward. I want to put an example to you from a shipping perspective that if I receive a phone call from a captain, we normally trade from port A to port B, right? And we do it 100 times, and we do the same route back and forward every time. That's a happy place. And my captain rings me up and says, hey, I want to do something a bit different. I want to take a new route. I'm like, okay, tell me about the new route. Yeah, well, it's a bit further than the old route. Okay. It's going to take a bit more time than the old route. Okay. So it'll take a bit more fuel than the old route. I'm like, okay. Oh, it's quite high risk. We're not sure, 100% sure we're going to get there. All right. Half the crew don't want to come. Okay. And one last thing. Once we've gone down that route, we can't turn around. I'm going to get this guy drug tested. You know, this is not a viable answer for something that I want to do in the way of change. And yet, quite often, this is what we're asking as an investment for an owner into these future-fueled ships. And the reason it's such a big ask is, as we heard before, these things are massive long-term investments. A ship is going to be lasting 20, 30, there are 35-year-old ships that are still commercially trading out there. And this thing needs to stand the test of time. Whatever is the new thing, and there's so many choices still out there, that new thing we've got to have confidence. That vessel, that business, has got to be open for trade for the next 20 to 30 years to cover its investment. I can't have a restaurant that I invested in as a business and then 2 years down the road I'm going to rip out all the tables and turn it into a bowling alley. It didn't return on its investment, and the ship is the same. This is a business, and it's got to be there earning its keep every day. And we don't want to get into that massive work of repowering and stuff like that. Because the danger here is a stranded asset. Right? The danger here is we choose a fuel, whatever it is, ammonia, hydrogen, methanol, whatever it might be, and we go, that's our thing, and we're going to go for it. But there is not a single shipping company in the world that can afford a stranded asset. And if we choose the wrong thing, and it turns out ammonia is not our thing, or whatever energy we've selected as our pathway is not the way, I've got a ship that I can't use, and I can't sell, because no one else can use it either. And that is an impossible risk to impose upon the ship-owning fraternity. The good news is that things can be done. And here are wonderful pictures of people that have done extraordinary things. There's methanol tugs, there's diesel-electric things, there's hydrogen ferries, a fully electric version. These things can be done. And the thing that's in common about a lot of them is they're in the harbour environment. And then you look at the risk profile of taking these future fuels on. Now, a harbour tug generally only fuels in the same spot every time. So if we can control that one fueling scenario, if we can control that one point source of energy, then great. And that's a realistic thing to get your arms around. And equally, if a port buys a new tug, the chances are that tug has got work for the whole of its lifetime. It's a planned investment. and that tug will live out its life expectancy in that environment working. So we own both the work and the fuel supply in those environments. And that has taken that risk profile, brought it down to something that is a kind of manageable chunk that ship owners can invest in. Ours is a different business. So in the last year, the vessels that we support have done something like 850 voyages to 50 unique ports around the UK. And you can imagine the logistics of trying to organise a future fuel and guarantee that capability in every one of those places. And the tricky thing about short sea shipping is there's no defined route. The route is defined by the client. The client has stuff in port A that they want to travel to port B. And that's where we're going to go. We might not go near specific energy resource ports for a very long time. So the tramping is what we call this particular part of the industry is very sort of dictated by demand, and it's also highly competitive. And you say, that's okay, we can add a stop. What we'll do is we'll just pop into one other place and we'll pick up our fuel there. The short sea shipping routes, these are 2, 3, 4 day voyages. If you're going to add another port to these voyages, you've added all your pilotage fees or your harbour fees or your port dues and a day. You've added a whole other day to that route, which is a hard addition, and it reduces your competitiveness. The other version is, of course, to put the goods into the green ports, but logistically that's hugely challenging as well. How are you going to move 3,500 tonnes of silica sand from where it started to one of these green corridor ports? Very, very tricky. And competition is high. So this is a really brief snapshot of our competition roughly around our area. This is vessels. This was just taken randomly off AIS. That are all the best vessels, 80 to 100 metre bulk traders that are operating in the sector where we operate. Competition is really high. And not only that, as soon as you get into high seas, competition is international. Any flag, any operator, any country can get in there and they can try and take away the business. So if you're slower, if you're more expensive, if you're less reliable, you're done. So it's a really, really competitive, tough environment to start thinking about being the greener energy answer. However, that's why I love green corridors. So I'm excited to talk about green corridors because the pathway from 1 port to 50 ports is 2. And what we want to do is get to the place where we're expanding out that kind of harbour model, the place where we own the work and we own the fuel or the energy supply, both ends, into a place where that becomes a manageable bite-sized investment. That's something, again, that somebody would want to invest in, somebody that can understand the whole logistics of the project and put their money towards thinking that there's a way of that generating its funds back outward. And I love Dover to Calais. I can see Megan sat up at the back there, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but it's such an awesome space, right? You've extended that port, that single port environment across the channel, you've bridged it. You've got 2 definitive points where you're going to re-energise those ships. You've got a piece of kit that is designed for that purpose, and you've got the work. This is taking the harbour model and it's extending it out. And that's what we have to do. And take it down into these digestible chunks of investment. And when we do, that's when the magic actually begins. Because the more times we generate these individual green corridors, this place where investment could work, this place where a future fuel does exist, eventually, slowly but surely, we start to have more and more and more ports around the place that are equipped for a future fuel. And that can do it. And we solve some of the issues. You know, if we've got 10 ports that supplied hydrogen, well, now there's market competition, so the cost of fuel is potentially going down. It becomes a realistic space where you can operate versus 1. And what we're looking for is the tipping point. We're looking for the place where somebody who's doing tramping can go, oh, look, there's enough green ports around the place that I could actually make this work. I don't have to be relying on that one source of energy for what we're trying to do. And what we're trying to get to is a leap of faith. So you're trying to get somebody who's a ship owner to go down that pathway of a future fuel. And actually, what I really want you to think about is we want somebody who's not a ship owner to go down that zone of future fuel. We've talked about investment funds and pension funds and things like that. We want somebody who's not necessarily a dedicated ship owner who wants to look at our investment and say it's realistic. And will take us there. And that takes two things. That takes a bit of a push, and the push needs to be international, because it is all flags, right? We can't have a local push where we suddenly up the ante on local ships, because all the foreign flags will come in underneath us and we'll wipe it out. So all of our push needs to be IMO, it needs to be European emissions trading. That push needs to be working together internationally. But the pull, that's definitely local. We'll catch you. And we've got a lot of people working towards that. We'll help you. We've got this technology. We've got this legislation. We'll help you develop that, that sandbox way of entering new technology onto ships. So that's what I want. I want to build FOMO to the point where the British ship owners are scared of missing out on future fuels rather than scared of investing. Because it does take a massive amount of money. And although there's these heroes that have done this, and often not financially, and you see them standing on the top of these future ships and doing amazing things, we talked about trillions of dollars of ships out there, and we can't rely on the goodwill and these extraordinary people that are leading innovation to carry us through that. We're going to need real money, and real money comes with a return on your investment. Sorry, we're running out of time. Everybody wants tea. I'm done. Thank you very much.
Okay.